This week's Sedra is Sedra Ki Tisah. This week's Torah portion is one of the most disturbing and difficult to understand. Ki Tisah contains the tragic story of the Jewish people's fall into worshiping idolatry and the golden calf. It is difficult to understand how a nation that had just received the Torah at Har Sinai and begun plans to build a tabernacle to make a space for meeting God could fall to such low depths as the making of the golden calf. Like many episodes in the Torah, the story of the golden calf becomes more understandable as it is studied and its details become better known. Our great kindergarten teachers tell us a story on a superficial level, and they assume that at some later date in our lives we'll re examine this episode and truly understand it. All too often, we never re examine the story and just assume that the superficial story you've been told is all there is to it. In his commentary to this week's Torah portion, the Ibn Ezra, one of our great Rishonim, explained the episode of the golden calf and went into great detail about the story. He explained that the entire nation wasn't involved in the golden calf. In fact, very few of the people were involved, and even less Jews. There was a group of people named the Erev. These were non-Jews who clinged to the Jews as they left Egypt, bandwagon jumpers. They were bad influences on the Jewish people and were never really brought into the wisdom of the Torah. It was these people who pushed for the golden calf. The Ibn Ezra also taught the people were convinced Moshe had died, and they had no one to lead them through the desert. They saw Moshe as the go-to between them and God, and without Moshe leading them, how would they know where God wanted them to travel? It was their idea to create some sort of intermediary between them and God to replace Moshe. These facts lend a better perspective to the episode. Ibn Ezra's teaching allows us to understand that the majority of the Jewish people weren't even involved in the making of the golden calf. Those that were involved were the small minority of people who were mostly non-Jews and weren't members of the nation. And even they weren't looking to violate the prohibition of idolatry. Rather, they were trying to find a replacement for Moshe to lead the people through the desert. If everything the Ibn Ezra taught was true, why was the episode of the golden calf considered so tragic? Why were so many people executed as a punishment for the golden calf? Why did Moshe throw the tablets he had just received from God down to make the point that the golden calf was a large sin? While the Ibn Ezra takes the story of the golden calf and minimizes the sin from the entire nation worshiping idolatry to a small group of people, there is one point he doesn't address. As a result of their refusal to participate in the sin of the golden calf, the Levim were chosen to be God's servants in the tabernacle and temple in place of the firstborn. If all of the firstborn participated in the sin of the golden calf, that would seem to suggest that more Jews were involved in the sin than the Ibn Ezra would have you believe. There's an approach to the sin of the golden calf that allows for both the Ibn Ezra's explanation and the firstborn to lose their spot to coexist. The Ibn Ezra suggests that few were involved, and if we understand him to mean that few actively made the golden calf, but the rest of the Jews were guilty for not objecting, we can understand why the firstborn lost their positions. Leaders cannot sit by while the people sin. They must declare loudly that the sinners are wrong. Leaders who sit by and allow the people to sin might not be guilty of the sin, but they are complicit in its violation. The firstborn lost their leadership positions because they said nothing in the face of the people creating the golden calf. This was wrong and not what a leader is supposed to do. For that, they forever lost their significance. Shabbat Shalom.